Welcome to episode 2 of Questioning Reality's Tentacles. This is episode 2 and it is based on how is the world governing the Unification Code. So this episode is the one that is following that of our channeled information on Elon Musk. If you have not already seen this episode, you might find it quite interesting and a new interpretation of how you might perceive this individual, and also an awareness in relation to AI, consciousness, discernment of evolution, the heart, agendas, and intentions that will have a more neutral point of view. Today's episode is a channeled direct communication where I have been guided with 6 specific questions to go into a direct channel of my sacred heart, my source intelligence, and my true expression of infinite connection with the I am God Source Creator expression that will allow for the communion and a conversation around what has been guided through me to express in relation to the Unification Code and the government, and what is the world doing in relation to this, and what is the Unification Code. So this is an episode that I don't have the answers before I channel it. I simply find the question and we sit in a space of direct communion and conversation with that of all that we are, and receive it with the codes, the information, the insights, and the activations. So for me to allow for you and I to receive in the best way, we're going to introduce 3 deep breaths to come into mind, heart, gut coherence so that you can receive in complete knowing. So let's begin by taking 3 deep breaths. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, and breathing out. So first question being, what is the Unification Code? The Unification Code is a string of frequency and information in the form of consciousness, thought form, that is able to be expressed through vibratory resonance of a human being that is willing to assimilate and allow oneself to be this vibrational expression in human expression of reality. What this means is that human beings are here on the earth with very specific ability to vibrate and communicate at the resonant expression of the word of the Unification Code. The Unification Code comes through verbal communication skills of language. There are many and yet few of these specific human beings, vessels, conduits, or individuals that have the capacity and the ability to speak from the Unification Code. The Unification Code is one of speaking in vibrational truth with a unified mind, a unified perspective, and a unified sense of truth in the form of reality. Unification or unity consciousness is not the Unification Code. The Unification Code is an assimilation of the mental aspects of the brain's matter that allows for a connection of brain and heart coherence to be in the vibrational truth of language, where one can speak in an aligned true expression of the word, being that of a vocal expression in language. This Unification Code means that the specific people that are coded with this within their DNA structure are holding an ability to speak the truth in a form of neutrality without distortion to that of a positive or negative expression of what this unification expression comes out as from them. The Unification Code is specifically being brought to the earth as a reminder for those to speak in vibrational truth. When one can simulate and speak in the integrated expression of the Unification Code, what happens is this vibrational truth becomes a gauge of how one can define truth from illusion, lie to the aspect of authentic awareness or essence. The Unification Code is for those that are starting to identify where history or other agendas such as political, governmental schemes and intentions for planet Earth have held a frequency of distortion in language. It is a very helpful code, being that for a human being to hear from other fellow physical beings that is aligned with a true expression, whether the truth be that they speak from a level of dissension, unconsciousness, or an agenda. The Unification Code allows for communication to become that of one of vibratory truth of self. This code specifically is the beginning of the awakening of a political and governmental structure that speaks truth. Without the manipulation tactics that have occurred in the previous history of your planet. By allowing the Unification Code to be planted within specific political individuals, there is an ability for a multiple reign of expressions of consciousness to start to bring forth a more trustworthy government, a government that no longer needs to hide cause that of distortion to control humanity, but instead to speak in vibrational truth of what it is that they're bringing forth to assist the collective people. Going into question 2. How is it that the Unification Code is being governed in our current political leaders? Currently, there are multiple vessels, human beings, that are choosing to hold the Unification Code in an assignment that they have chosen through their own sovereign free will and choice to bring forth a new communication style to that of the governing bodies and the communication councils of that of humanity. This Unification Code expression of communication that is held within these governing expressions of humanity in the form of your political leaders is providing a new way of reaching that of their human expressions or the individual beings that receiving them in a form that allows for a transformation in direction. When an individual human hears one that can speak vibrational truth, there may be a resistance or a connection. As with all polarity, as there is a attraction to the truth, it guides those individuals that are willing to move through in this vibrational direction as the disciples, you could say, to that of the word of truth. Those beings that are in resistance to these leaders and the vibrational truth of the Unification Code being spoken through the word will mean that there will be large amounts of individuals, not just in the collective human species that are governed by these expressions, but through the political agencies themselves. What you'll find is that this political agenda of holding unified expressions of beings that are willing to hold truth and vibrational resonance through the Unification Code are able to express in a way that they will resonate or connect with other political leaders and aspects of our government pivotal and elite members of society that will feel the vibrational resonance with their own vibrational heart's octave. Even if the individual, such as Elon Musk, is not functioning from his heart chakra yet, someone such as Donald Trump, who is, will be able to speak the Unification Code in a way that resonates to the oversoul of that of Elon and many others. These are typical expressions that you can look at, see, and start to demonstrate the information of consciousness that is being shared through listening, watching, and understanding what is vibrationally taking place in the spoken word and the words between. As Donald Trump is a Unification Code holder, he has developed a channel of truth, not of unity, that holds an ability to only speak truth. Some might call this the fact-checking. He has developed a skill based on his role to be able to only speak vibrational truth. That means that his language and octave sometimes feels as though he is taking you on a journey, story, or looping you around the point. What he is doing is speaking and practicing the channeled ability and capacity he holds with the Unification Code to ensure that he is in vibrational tonality. This means that his leadership skills will be of a higher predominant goal in the end representation of the mission. Because there is a necessity to speak in vibrational order, he will attract those that are holding a desired truth for an outcome of a more unified expression, a more true agenda, an expression that is aligned with his own intentions moving forward. There are many other political leaders and other elite members throughout that of your Earth's current global interpretation of reality that are holding this capacity and ability, yet they are few. And it takes a very skilled ear, heart, mind, and body in sync with its own vibrational expression of truth, known as the Unification Code, to be able to be a vibrational tester of this in itself. This being that you are hearing, channel, aka me, is a Unification Code holder. This is why I know what I speak to as I express through me and from me is of the absolute vibrational knowing of truth, that all of the channeled information and expressions of reality I have come to discover through my human experiencing and my expressions of communication with that of quantum mechanics and vibrational expression of light into the form of matter through all dimensions is a true expression of the oneness of all things. That there is no inversions that I allow to be spoken from me. However, being a Unification Code holder and speaking truth does not mean that truth may be misunderstood, does not mean that truth may not be twisted by the perceiver or receiver, does not mean that the Unification Code and the vibrational truth is heard by ears that are wanting to hear vibrational knowing. This is where there will be a rebellion against the Unification Code holders in the governmental structures and political leaders, because there is only two ways in the human expression and experience of life, which is to choose to either hear vibrational truth or deny it. You have a choice of separation or a choice of illusion. And in this form of the governing bodies, you will have a split where those that desire to stay in illusion will not be able to stay in a vibrational vortex of those such as Donald Trump and many others that are holding this code. The reason I'm speaking to Donald Trump is he is the specific leader that I know of, other than the smaller political agendas or other expressions from other countries, as I am not an educated individual on the political narrative or the political viewpoints of this reality. This will shift and split many of the political agendas over the time that is coming and foreseen for us. However, it will also align and unify. The Unification Code is the verbal expression that a human being can use as its greatest skill and tool to connect and express in communion with another individual, whether or not they're at the same vibrational expression, consciousness, or even have the same agenda. It will allow for an evolution to occur where similar expressions of intention for planet Earth come together in their agreements for that of more unity and sovereignty in this experience. What is the governing body of the Unification Code? There is no governing body of the Unification Code. It is a code that is imprinted and decided to be brought upon on a genetic level from that of the council connection to Coyotes. Coyotes is a council that sits outside this galaxy that holds a specific vibrational stream of information that is able to be provided in the unconscious activation and remembrance of an individual being deciding to move forward into their awakening and unification. The Unification Code is first programmed into the genetic body through light technology and is activated when the individual human being is at a point of desiring to seek truth. When truth activates, the Unification Code activates, and the vibration of becoming that which you may consider to be a lie detector comes online, where the knowing of what is true and what is illusion becomes more vibrationally acceptable within their expression of communication through the word. This word, as that individual, no matter their consciousness level, starts to speak in vibrational alignment of the truth, that allows for their own consciousness to shift rapidly in a quantum leap or elevation. So what you may see is that those that are holding the Unification Code, once they decide at a conscious choice to seek truth, that they then accelerate their ability to be in ascended consciousness and vibrational alignment of the law of one at a rapid acceleration rate, because they have decided that truth is more important than illusion. And this Unification Code allows for the vibration of truth to be spoken, expressed, and reciprocated. This means that consciousness attracts upon itself at a rapid rate, where the information of these individuals becomes expanded beyond their capacity at many times to receive and interpret at a high level of expression. This will allow for the governing agencies and the political agenda to have a rapid shift in consciousness when they start to hear truth and decide that as an individual they also want this truth through their vibrational remembrance. This will allow for many leaders to awaken to the vibration of the Unification Code, allowing for truth speaking through the word to happen in a very quick, elevated state. This is projected to occur in the next 3 to 7 months' time as the exposure project continues to unravel. How does the governing bodies demonstrate effective communication with the elite? The governing body that you are referring to in specific is the Council of Coyotes. Coyotes has a functionality that transcends polarization, sitting in the unity consciousness field as a dualistic expression of reality in the form of seeing that of light and dark, or polarity in truth. They are not expressed in unity in the form of oneness. That is not their representation of hierarchical consciousness. They are still developing and working in their council productivity and directive in the form of seeing both light and dark agendas or information sources of energy to create using both elements to the whole. The marrying point between these expressions of consciousness is yet to be that of where they function from. However, how they are working within this experience is that they are providing very specific expressions of communications to those that are in connection and leadership with them, where they are speaking to presence and neutrality, which allows for one to see beyond the polarization of emotional turbulence and distortion of tethering of mind. This means that the individual is able to be grounded and stabilized, even if they are yet to find a wholeness in the unified expression of their being. They have yet to understand this, which actually allows for Coyotes, the council, to assist them with communications and informations that are simplistically profound in the philosophical expression of consciousness. They work specifically in the consciousness sector of thought into spoken word, thought into intellectual intelligence, and using the consciousness of reality to allow for a marrying and mergence of the brain matter into a more equilibrium expression. When one individual is able to receive from the Coyotes, and the Unification Code is able to be directed through the energy vortex of the self, what happens is the divisions and the polarizing thought forms that create trauma start to dissipate naturally. These communications through vibrational resonance of truth work in a way that the polarity that has been conditioned and coded into the human vessel can dissolve and disintegrate over time. This is one way that Coyotes assist many human beings holding the Unification Code, is that by speaking the truth, by speaking from the realm of consciousness through into thought and expressing out in sound of the word, there is enough vibrational transformation that takes place in the upper chakra systems that allows for a mind that can find spaciousness, peace, and awareness. This means that the receptivity to triggers becomes that of a minimalistic amount, and the more one is willing to communicate from the space of connection in this expression of communication and communion, there is a natural peacemaking that occurs in the physical body. Like all expressions of consciousness, sitting in the mental consciousness of neutrality and mental unified expression or unification code vocal interpretation may mean you can disassociate from your emotional bodies, your physical bodies, and even misunderstand your spiritual expression. The Unification Code can become a reason for denying that of the human experience in philosophical truths rather than recognizing the zoomed in expression of a human being. This may be challenging to understand, yet for a leader and for beings that are choosing for that of a true higher expression for humanity, there can be assistance with this coding and the assistance of the council in their ability to share consciousness in neutrality, to make decisions that are not based on emotionality or reactivity, but are instead stabilized in a place of peace and communication from a point of the zoomed out perspective. This is one way our leaders that are making choices on behalf of the entire human civilization are shifting into a new form of governmental procedure where they are becoming that not ran by their ego, but instead ran by a level of neutralized expression of true consciousness in that dominant force of the mental quadrant that allows for an integrated expression of neutrality. Remembering that this is the role they play and that being emotionless might be the very thing that is required for their role and mission completion. Is there clarity on how to know a unification code holder or an inverted or ascended mutation of a leader? As your human expression has that of 3 human being types, you will have human beings that represent themselves as ascended expressions of consciousness, or descended expressions of consciousness, or unified or truthful expressions of consciousness. That there is only 3 expressions of consciousness in the human individuality that can be broken down into infinite layers of interpretation and personality traits. There is an inversion and an ascended expression of all of that which exists in this reality, as well as a truthful expression or a unified expression of its energy signature. This allows for you to see that even when you're looking at the governmental bodies and the political agendas on your earth, that there will be those that are ascended expressions of beings, those that have a descended expression, and those that are sitting in truth and unification. And as this reality exists as it does, it has to be in balance. So you will find just as many ascended to descended and truthful individuals within your governing bodies. This is a non-negotiable. As above, so below. As within, so without. So if you see that an ascended expression of a being exists within your government and is focused on taking things into a higher expression of reality, and yet it is still yet to be based on sovereign truth, you will find that their direct opposition, or those that are working directly with them, will be that of the descended to keep the point of polarity. This is a non-negotiable. If you are able to look over your parliamental houses and your presidential and expressions of that of prime ministers, you will see that their second in charge or their other halves are the opposing energy to what you would consider. It does not mean they're pure. It means one has an ascension mask and one has a descension expression, and they counterbalance each other into what is considered a truthful or unification point. Now that there are more and more truthful or unified beings choosing an expression of some form of middle point, there are more of these individuals that are attracting the same expression themselves. This does not mean their entire governing body will be sitting in the lens of unification or in truth, as that would be an unrealistic interpretation. What it means is they will have individuals that are around them that are ascended, and they will have a direct connection to someone close in the vortex that is descended. This means that without being aware of the different elements and agendas, that even a being that is in alignment with bringing a greater truth can find themselves wrapped and entangled in the consciousness and the agendas that are at play. It is important to see that where truth is will sit other truths, but how that truth is created or the unity is represented may be in multiple beings and through the balance point of polarity. This will allow you to understand with a neutral perspective that although there is more truth emerging in the governmental structures, there is also still many tricks and many lies. This is how we as a collective individual human race are currently functioning. There is a proportion of approximately 17% of the human race that is sitting in a desire for truth or the middle way. These are not all ascended beings. These are not all star seeds. These are not all individuals of higher consciousness from the past or the future. They are that of all expressions of consciousness and spirit, that they are choosing a middle point for their own internal agenda, for their own evolutionary expression, to find the middle way because they have decided that that is the most aligned expression for their human experience. This means that the rest of the individuals that are in our reality are fluctuating in the different perspectives of ascension and descension narratives, and that there will be many of these that you may consider either spiritual, conscious, evolved, and the mix of human beings, the level of consciousness, and the Sacred Heart's truth is making for quite a mixed soup of interpretations and mirrors of each other. Is our government really changing? What is change? Really, change is always occurring in every moment, as consciousness cannot stand still, even when it is perceived to be stagnated or frozen. There is a way that this consciousness expression can only be held in a temporary expression of perception and yet not in vibrational expression itself. This means that your government has been changing and will always change. That there is no significant difference from past to present to future. The change and the evolution of your governmental structures has been moving through different sections of consciousness over long periods of time. And this means that there is no more change now than there was in the past. It just means that the shift in consciousness is seeing the change through a new perspective lens, that the transformation and the bandwidth of ability to receive and interpret is becoming that of a broader awareness of information, that effectively your human species is becoming more aware and more conscious in intelligence, and therefore is able to see where there is transformation. This does not mean that change is any more rapid than any other point of history, and that this change and natural evolution of life and ascension or vibrational consciousness expansion is taking place. You will see this change more at this point of time because you are now able to see it and look for it. Because the shift in the vibration of the totality of the collective and the shift of the vibration of those that have chosen a rapid transformation into higher expressions of consciousness is allowing for the bandwidth and the transformation of the human race as a whole to accelerate through the new earth constructs of reality. This also means that certain aspects of reality may appear as they haven't changed at all, as though they are not transforming. And this is the aspect of the information that is occurring, that change doesn't occur in the lower expressions of vibrational experience. Yet that is inaccurate, because even those that you may consider asleep or of lower vibrational expression are still moving through their vibrational rate, and their consciousness has no other way but to change. It will either vibrate at a higher rate or a lower rate. And this expression of vibratory frequency will, based on the bandwidth they're functioning from, take a lot longer in time. This is where it may appear that there is no transformation when individuals are functioning from a low bandwidth of consciousness. Why is President Trump alienated from the Galactic Federation? Donald Trump used to have a direct connection, communion, and directive from that of the Galactic Federation. This alliance was what was assisting him in his previous presidential experience. That there were aspects of the Galactic Federation directly communicating with him and other subordinates and other political expressions of formalities. These formalities of individuals that were functioning from the Galactic Federation of Consciousness, just as we spoke to change, have evolved over the period of time through this transformation of human evolution. As you could see it, is that the Galactic Federation has yet to change. They are functioning from a specific reality that has made up on specific information. Although their transformation may appear to be one of change, they are still governing from the same laws and information that they originally were created from. This means that the human beings that were receiving connection, information, orders, and aspects of alliance in directive for mission assignments on Earth have indeed ascended beyond and out-evolved them. The Galactic Federation was not aligning to that of the consciousness that has been evolved into and the bandwidth of frequency that has been able to be held through the Unification Code and the channel capacity and ability. This is where Donald Trump has allowed himself over the period of his last presidential experience to evolve his consciousness through such discipline and intent to ensure that he out-evolved that of a governing body that was not in his vibrational truth of what he has come to be in an individual expression of consciousness. Donald Trump requires that of alliances in cosmic and galactic expressions that have come into the point of ascension beyond that of the ninth dimension. He will not communicate, nor will he do business with any beings below that point of evolution. This is not through denial, nor is it done through any other form of expression of reality. This is an aspect of recognizing that vibrational bandwidth means that only those individuals that he is in resonance with at the frequency capacity of his minimum bandwidth, being the ninth dimension of interpretation of reality, is where he can commune and conversate with. This is where his deals and connection points will have beings that have evolved to a minimum of the ninth dimension or a maximum of the ninth dimension. This does not mean that the individual human being is functioning from an integrated ninth dimensional expression, but it means that they're holding enough frequency and consciousness interpretation to be able to be in direct connection and communication with Donald Trump. The council, or that of the Galactic Federation, is not a council that functions above the ninth dimension. This is because they sit below universal law and not above. The above is the 10th dimension, which holds these governing agencies for sovereignty and free will. The fact that the Galactic Federation has been overseeing the Earth for such a long period of time is a distortion in hierarchical consciousness, as this should never have occurred. The governing agency needs to sit above the universal law to understand the universal law and implement universal law without distortion and treason. This is something that has been in place over the previous few months and is shifting directly in communion and conversation in the above and in the below. This is why there's been an alienation from Donald and the Galactic Federation. He's simply evolved his consciousness, frequency, and vibrational interpretation of reality, where he no longer communes and connects with the Galactic Federation, and instead has found higher counsel and connection to assist humanity in the next steps forward. That was our final channel, and we will be actually doing a very specific episode on Donald Trump next. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Please like and subscribe, and for anyone that you might find this sort of information from a channel perspective interesting, please share and ensure that you stay tuned for the next release. I love you, I love you, I love you. Thank you. Ahava.